go. Are you guys going to all of them?
Huh?
With the ranch and with the feedlot.
Okay, let's go. Go.
This is our passport to history adventure to Hathaway Ranch Museum.
Go.
This is our passport to history adventure to Hathaway Ranch Museum. Rolling? Oh.
Let's go.
One of our visitors loaned us his toy tractor collection. You see it on the right?
Ah, let me see.
Rolling train. No, that's not true.
And my father collected pictures of the oil fields and of other local history. So you see on the wall pictures of oil fields
Yeah,
from
that
when
was
Santa Fe
true.
Springs was first developing. And they have feedlot here.
Oh.
Feedlot. He did
What happened
experimental
to
work.
all the cows?
The cows are gone. We
Why?
don't have anybody to milk them, and we don't grow feed for them anymore.
Oh, so how do you take them away?
How do we take them away? They go in a truck. They go up a ramp, and I'll show you the ramp. The shells, the coins, the bullets, the buttons. He found those things in the field. And there's an article about it over here on the wall. And my given to my grandfather from his sons in, I believe, in the late 1930s. It's called a big wheel bicycle. And you hear the term taking a header. There are no brakes on that bicycle. So if you step up and get on it and you're riding and you hit the wrong bump and you go over the front, all Santa Fe Springs, and there might be a few from Long Beach.
Oh,
But
look.
when oil was discovered, he and his sons went into my father's childhood. And then there are native things we've collected here. Bird nests, wasp nests. It looks like a dirty sock. And they make this out of cobwebs and things, and that's where the birds go in and out. And then there are other birds' nests here, other kinds made out of other materials. They make nests out of whatever materials they can find. There's a nest, and they go into big flocks, and the flocks go swooping around, and they take insects out of trees. That's how they live. They help clean up the trees. And these are paper wasp nests. They make the nests out of material, especially mud and other material. They poke their eggs in it, and then they hang on them, but they want insects to fall in it. Cards from him. So the first cards that she made were all brochures for the museum. Now these are all on loan from one of our volunteers. Cane shop. The parrots come in and pick the pecans. These haven't filled. See, the nut's not good. But they come in and pick them and drop them. But these are 2 pecans. You might be able to feed them. See if they'll come up for chips. Yeah, you get to feed the goats.
Do you want to see the go?
Yeah.
Do you stick
No,
these?
you can.
If you
I'll
want,
teach you.
if you want to hand them a chip, just take it, hold it gently, and they'll take it. They won't bite. See that? They're trying to get hold of it. Stick it through so they can get it. You want to feed the goats?
But don't drop it.
Just hold it gently and put it through the wire. Stick it so she can reach it. Stick it closer so she can reach
Closer.
it.
Come
You gotta
closer.
go closer.
Come closer.
Closer. She won't
Closer.
bite you.
Closer. Because she.
That one.
You want one more, Boo Boo?
One more. Stick it close enough. She can't
Closer.
reach. She can't reach through the wire. You have to stick it through the wire.
Closer, Boo Boo.
Closer. Do the black. Oh, whatever. I'll do the black.
There's salt on them. That's what you're feeling.
Whoa. So do the black. Do the black.
No, you can do any one.
You can feed the white one too.
White one.
Feed the white one.
Yeah, Boo Boo. White one.
Feed the white one. The brown one would like one too. But the white one hasn't had as many.
There's another
Feed
goat
the white
coming. Another goat coming.
Stick it through the wire. They can't reach through. You have to stick it through the wire.
You have to come closer. Close, close like this.
So I can want some too.
You want a few one more?
Yeah.
There are more. Here's a bag full.
I think the black had the least. Which one? Whoa. Oh, I always thought that one was fake.
These are year-old goats, and they've grown.
No, that one. That's standing over.
Oh, standing over there? No, she's just shy.
I know. PTJ. PTJ.
Ah.
Oh yeah, they might think it's food. They'll lick it.
More, Boo Boo?
Well, there's flies.
Yes. The flies grow sometimes under the manure.
How about the white?
You can get one. Let's see that.
Okay.
Oh. You want to get one for the white one?
The little pieces, yeah.
I think the flies want to eat them too.
They're close enough. They can't get through.
Uh-oh. Where'd they go?
Let's go somewhere else.
This is where they repaired and invented and
Whoa. Wow.
fixed anything that needs to be fixed. We're working on a tractor right now. It's mostly volunteer work, so it doesn't get done very fast. I can turn on. There are two lathes, and one of them dates from 1890, we were told by one of the volunteers that cleaned it up. If you have to change the shape of something or correct a mistake, you put it on the lathe, and it's powered to turn it around, so smaller lathe. And then there's a mill in the back and a drill press. So there used to be a saw here that hasn't been put back. Well, in the 1920s, and this is the reservoir access here. And there's a pump that would take water from the reservoir and put it in a tank that then sent it to all the faucets. If you want to see another piece of equipment run, I can start up the big 3-cylinder engine. Just to take water from the reservoir and put it over into a pressure tank. This will start up. First it's 1 cylinder, then 2, then 3 that work.
Hey.
But it has some water lilies and some moss in it.
And what's this for?
This was for the cattle for water.
Oh.
And he built a float system.
Oh, there's more. Suddenly more goats. Want to go see?
Come a little quickly if you want to see them coming to you.
All right, look.
This is the goat herd that we have now.
Where are they coming over?
They're coming over hoping we'll give them grass or leaves.
I love these.
Some of these leaves over.
They eat them?
Yes, they eat the leaves.
What?
They like weeds. So we give them, throw them over the top.
Do you ever run out?
Do we ever what?
Run out of them?
Run out of leaves? Donate. See, they're eating the leaves down here.
Where? Can you pick me up?
Joe had 5 babies. Quintuplets. This is old farm equipment, a tractor and a manure spreader. And we built the tower over there so they could climb up. They like to climb on things.
There was one goat that was staring at the phone.
Oh, there were 2 hands.
Go over and there's more grass down here. Can he see well enough? He can actually, you get spider webs. She turns them out to graze weeds on the outer back property. So they know it's time to go. They're running out of little weeds and leaves. Fruit in the pack.
Oh, many
Can
spiders.
you figure out what that hole would be for?
What?
What do you think it might be for?
I don't know.
If we had a problem with mice and rats in the barns, what would you do? Do you think you could make a hole like that and let the cat go in and out? Well, that's what my grandfather did. He made a hole so the cat could go in and make sure there are no mice and rats inside the barn. This was the milk barn.
But the mice can also
This is
go
where
in
he
right
washed
now.
his coveralls.
Too fun.
The washing machine, you can see it back here with coveralls. This is an old Thor washer. And you put water in it with a hose, and you put your soap in it, and you run it as long as you want. There's no timer. And then when you're through, you run it through the wringer to get the extra soapy water out. And then you run that water down, and it went down through the milk barn and down up to 3 milk cows. You can pretend you're milking a cow and have a picture made of it. If you'd like.
Yeah. You want to go milk the cow?
My grandfather and father made the milk stools, and you sit on the milk stool and pretend you're milking the cow into the milk bucket.
Aye.
Cow. She's a little bigger than the cows we had, because we had Jersey cows, so they would have extra cream.
Aye. Milk it?
But you can pretend
Pretend.
you pretend you're milking.
Like how?
You take
This is
hold
poet.
and gently squeeze.
Aye. Pretend you're milking.
Gently. And we use 2 hands. We milk one side at a time. Or we milk diagonally across. There you go. Pretending you're milking a cow. Try again. Into their pasture. But now we have goats instead of cows.
So that doesn't work?
It doesn't work now, but at one time it was designed to actually drill a hole in the ground, and it was taken to the county fair.
But did it?
It's been removed from it. It was going to be put back. It hasn't been yet. This was part of the feedlot area. When my grandfather farmed the horses, this is the barn on the left where he kept the horses. And this is the scale where they weighed the cattle. And this pen used to be on rollers. You can see what's left of them and roll it on. And you asked me how the cattle got loaded. This is a loading chute over here. And the truck would do a loop around and pull up to that chute. And then there's a squeeze chute on the other side. But the cattle, this is where the cattle would get on or off the truck. Right here.
So then the truck would
This would,
come
and
in.
it was on rollers, so it would roll out to the truck, which is unusual.
So then the truck would go
The truck
in.
would pull up here and open a side door, and the cattle would come in or out from the truck. And then this is called a squeeze chute. And if you have to doctor a cow or take the horns off or milk a special milking cattle are put in a squeeze chute one at a time.
Wait,
They come in the back. That door opens up in the back, and then this door opens up to let them out. And then this is to keep their nose. They put their nose in here, which is to hold their nose still in case you have to medicate or treat their head. And this piece comes down. It's tied up now, but this comes down to hold their head in place for their safety and for the safety of the people handling it. Because if a cow weighs 900 or 1,000 pounds, you don't want to argue with them. We have a peacock in this pen that the pound asked us to take in. So he sheds his feathers, and you'll see some of the feathers he shed. You look at the back here, you'll see he's lost his pretty tail. This is his tail all over the ground. See, these are what I need.
how does he lose it?
He sheds the feathers like you shed hair or shed skin.
I thought that's his tail.
This was part of his tail, and he shed all of his tail. This time of year, they shed their tails.
Okay, baby.
Take that eye with you if you'd like. This is for later study then. When Harry Potter writes, he writes with a quill feather. And this is a wing feather of a peacock, or it can be from a turkey or a goose. And that's what they used for writing. And it doesn't hold ink, so I'd keep dipping in the inkwell. But they would trim the front of this to look like the feedlot. And this is where the goats stay and all sick pen at night. And this is old farming equipment. We have some that's temporary here. This is an early wagon. And the immigrant wagon is the one that's being worked on by some volunteers. And that's the wagon that my grandmother's grandparents used on the Oregon Trail.
Oregon?
Yeah, they came on the Oregon Trail from Iowa. And then there's the center of the manure spreader being pulled by a tractor. You see the iron wheel? They had a two-story hay field.
So, okay.
And the hay was ground with the Caterpillar engine on that side, and grain was ground with the Caterpillar engine on this side. This was the grinding barn. There's a hammer mill there that would grind the grain to make it more digestible for the cattle. And weight was put on them by feeding them the extra grains and minerals. It was the one that powered the grinding barn hammer mill. There were grain tanks here that were sold off in the 60s because we were no longer producing any grain. Toilet. No flush toilet. It had 2 seat levels, one for children and one for adults. The doors in the inside. But it's been moved about 50 feet from where it began.
Oh, that's fine.
Corn crib. House, corn that was produced on the property.
I thought the goats were there.
The goats are out here, but they're in the back. They might come up to you looking for more crackers. This is where Mary has some gardens.
Crackers? That was
Bring
raw.
crackers with us. Hay bales from one end of the barn to the other, and dropped it in the top of the corn crib. And out back we have sprayers that were used in the orchards that were on the property, and we have old tractors
Are those the goats?
and hay balers for putting up. Yes, they're coming up to see what we're doing. They won't hurt you, and most of them won't come close enough. They will not hurt you. I'm curious about what we're doing. But there are 2 old hay balers that were used in the 1950s on the property because it used to. Some of these weeds are what the goats are eating. We had a volunteer that used to do our weeding, and now the goats do it for us. This is a tower that my grandfather made. It was going to be for spraying on the mountain ranch where he also worked.
Then
Sit
how?
on the truck, and he made this in the machine shop. It went all the way to the back of the machine shop. It's the same technique he used for making the small oil derrick that you saw.
Then how
He
do
cut
they
the
weed
pieces
it?
by hand and assembled them
Look at that
together.
tray.
And then there's an old Dodge
What
truck,
tray?
and way in the back there's a shed that has some bees in it. And you'll see other oil field equipment like the tanker, the steamroller.
Hello.
Gas station building was planned by family members that was changed in this gas station. But it houses tractors and equipment now.
Ow. Gold. Tata, no more gold.
The engine out to work on it. These are early tractors, gas-powered tractors. There used to be one truck set up as though a well was going to be drilled, created. And we have the top system oil derrick. And beyond it is a steam roller and a steam clam shovel. From some of the drilling operations in Colorado. See, we have chickens that are loose also.
So what's that type for?
We're going to have a bigger gate here, but this is where we go through right now. On this side of the fence.
Are you able to squeeze through
Can you squeeze
without
through?
without bumping into the nail?
We have a gate.
Come here.
It used to be storage, and my grandfather oversaw the moving of it in one piece from the oil fields. Put timbers across and rollers and moved it. The old Woody on the left, and my father drove over 11 miles because they had another ranch where they worked up on Cascade. So he drove up there to develop a water system and take care of the cattle and the fences. And the gas station paraphernalia is on display. There are early phones, adding machines. There's a machine in the corner that predated office work replaced by computers now. There are 26 or 27 different functions. And it was donated by people that had a rose growing business in well, supposedly for storing oil at one time. And we use it for physical storage. The insignia. About 3 of them made. And International claims that it doesn't exist. It's on a truck. He uses coal, and there are blacksmith tools on the wall, and there's a forge here. And I think he uses a hand bellows to heat, to run extra air through to heat the coal, to heat metal so that he can work the metal. He makes what he calls larger tools. But he demonstrates heating this up when we have a purple color and the inside is pink, but the birds are hungry enough that they've come in to eat it. 2 fig trees in the back. Those are Cadota or white figs.
Were they supposed to eat it?
History.
Sure, all of our ancient history, the early history of this country was written.
What's the name of your dog?
This was the
Go in.
So people used to live in here. So people used to live in here.
Yes, people used to live in here. There were 6 children raised in this house.
Then how about the other house?
There were, well, the children were grown when that house was built, but 2 of the children lived in that house, and then when they married, they stayed there the first year where their houses were being built.
So the 2 houses were theirs.
My grandparents' house was that one, And this was the middle, three sons. The middle son's house was this one. In that brochure you have, you see the three sons. Well, the middle son's house was this one. The other two sons' homes were across the road. A house guest that came from Cambodia. And as a thank you for being here for Christmas, and relatives of those grandparents and great-grandparents. And you can turn the crank, and it was rigged up between the houses. That would be 3 shorts. And each family had its own ring. It could be 2 longs and a short, 3 shorts, 4 longs, whatever. Connect whoever was calling one person to the other using the switchboard that's in the back corner. And there are old saddles that were used early on in the ranch on the right. There's an old trunk. Old kitchen tools that are replaced by more modern tools now. There are cherry pitters and meat grinders.
Oh.
There's an old refrigerator made to look like an ice box when ice was what kept food. Those will tell you that. And Jesse Hathaway invented a variety of things, including this electrified churn, so his wife didn't have to turn a hand churn. The stove ran on gas from the oil fields.
Huh.
They turned it off in the summertime, but it helped heat the house. And that cooler is called a California cooler because it has the first house on the property. There are butter molds, and there's a hand churn for churning butter on the table. The family got big enough that they had to have couldn't just eat in the kitchen. And original chairs and table, original furniture in the because when they were children, that's what they had to keep things cold. They made their own toys. There were no plastic toys, toys to buy, so they made their own toys with their father's house. Before the 1920s. And it has old family pictures, some old instruments, and the old family pictures. And there's an antique record player given to us by a neighbor. They're given to us by a neighbor. Here's the stop. Take the stop off and the record turns, and the power is to crank it up. And then it plays an old piece that might be familiar. If you want more volume, this is how you got volume. Casey would rest with a strawberry blonde. Put that open. It has old bathroom stuff in it. Potions and solutions and old bathroom stuff.
Whoa.
And then the last room that was the boys' room, the 3 boys had their beds and their closet. And when Mrs. Hathaway turned it into a museum, she called this girls' room of the 20s because the furnishings came from the Lancaster farm and they were dated from the 20s. And it's toys from her childhood, and she was born in 1916. So it's another old crank record player and things that date from the 20s into the 50s. And when I was a kid, these stairs had carpet on them, and we would slide down on cardboard. Parents never said no to that. I'm sure the parents would panic. That's what she called the costume room, and it's old family costumes, dresses, hats, shoes, some from weddings, and a donated wedding dress from a neighbor that used to own part of Western Costume. But the 3 daughters' wedding dresses are here, and her wedding dress is here. and the hats date from the 20s through the 50s. And the bathroom was used, and it has old medical equipment in it because Dick Hathaway got injured there. This was a military room. It was two of the girls' bedroom when the girls were in the house. And it now houses family military uniforms. On the black knitted mannequins are uniforms from the oldest cousin of the third generation, Korea. Nadine's brother volunteered in World War II, and so the World War guard, the shoe scraper. We don't have the entire house in order. This was the back entry porch that was used for greeting people and moving things in and out. The kitchen has been a few changes made. The stove is original. The gas stove, again, ran off gas from the oil fields and ran most of the year. And the electric stove next to it, you saw the old stove in the museum house. Those were switched when they moved across the driveway. The dishwasher's been changed out, and the sink is, they have more than the two of them. They ate at the breadboard when they were up in the children ate in the breakfast room. Again, the house was built in 1933. The first floor was up when the 33 earthquake hit, and then the house was finished. The phone and entry were behind us. The dining room, again, it had carpet right to the edge of the pattern on the floor, and it was more of a family room than a dining room. My mother changed it back to a dining room. Did quite a bit of entertaining. Some of the furnishings were here, and some of them were brought in from my mother's house. The tablecloth was a gift from a neighbor who had it prepared by Nuns Anniversary. So my mother had it preserved by a firm in Whittier that does preservation. Made from a picture of the original house. And that's the 6 children that Mike built. And this is his oldest grandson and his first great-grandchild. Grandmother's sewing porch, and it's a storage room now. And eventually we'll have it cleaned out, and I think we still have one wicker piece of furniture. There was a whole wicker. Maternal grandmother's glassware was taken by family members. These again, grandchildren and great-grandchildren of my parents. We can go over into the living room this one. If you need light, I can turn it down. It's on a rheostat that my brother rigged up. This goes into the living room. There are multiple doors in. The other one behind us, and this door. And the back porch is an entry. You can play part of a piece, but I learned mine 60-some years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Why is there a sticker on TJ?
You're a child. Pretty accurate. Nick was a renowned painter when he came over for a year of study. And that old secretary used to visit my mother. She liked red carpeting, so she had the stairway and and the hall upstairs, recarpeted in red or burgundy. She called this room the Victorian room because the neighbor donated the furniture, and it's probably close to Victorian. This piece, that, the bed, and this, and she had built a house where on top of.
How many levels is this house?
Well, if you count the rooftop and the basement, it would be 4. We don't usually count the rooftop and the basement as levels, so it would be basically 2 stories. And this gives a view of the mountains at one time and the fields. The house was designed after a house they saw in Europe somewhere in the Mediterranean. And there was a wedding in the house. Actually, there were 2 family weddings in the house, and the harpist was a family friend who sat on this balcony and played the harp. The
Not gonna
doors
let
are
Daddy go up, huh?
They're all. The doors are metal and glass throughout the house. The inner doors are wood. That's an office. You can look. It's got moved in there. That my mother had in different locations. There's a light, and there's what I call a secret stairway over there that goes down and meets right under where it's entertaining and didn't want to be involved. He could eat his dinner and sneak up these stairs and go to bed. Did not have to walk through the rest of it. Not positive, but I'm close to positive.
Who did the wood carving?
Mr. Anderson, he was my 5th grade teacher, and he did that and gave it to my mother. He brought in a little rest too. Across to the other bedroom. Tile floor and tile walls.
It's kind of like your room.
They got modified.
Boo-boo's room. There's a bathroom
They
in
added
there.
a shower equipment about 12, 15 years ago, excuse me.
Yeah.
Wait, so these 2 are bedrooms?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's
Oh, yeah,
another
that's
question
just
for
like
Jack and Jill.
my room.
I
This is
said
another
Jack and Jill's
bedroom.
aren't modern inventions.
We need to be sure to turn the light on in that room when we leave.
Is there a light on in the other room?
I turned the light on there, just inside the door. We can catch it on the way out.
No, okay.
That's my room.
This is bird's eye maple. Oh, the curtains open here. We probably just need to open. From this one we haven't cleaned out.
Whoa!
Used for storage, but they're all cedar lined.
Oh.
You can get just a whiff of the cedar.
You'll smell it?
I smell
Smell
the
the
cedar
cedar.
in the cedar closet. See the wood lining the ceiling and the walls is cedar wood. It's an aromatic wood. There's a separate shower for the son that likes showers.
I thought it was another room.
I maple furnishing. In this room only. Well, actually, no, there's one left.
Was it original?
Some of it was original to the house, and then my mother's family had bird's eye maple, so that was brought down when they cleaned out my mother's house, Frida Applewood's house. My mother's sewing machine is right there. This was, because there's another bird's eye maple piece in here. This room was cleaned up because there was a movie made in the house, and this was a primary filming location. But pretty much, this was brought across as my father's armoire, I think it's called, and it was in the bedroom for his stuff, but that was his closet, because my mother had the walk-in closet. And this living room, it haven't been moved back downstairs yet. But I want my bedroom set.
My room.
My sister had moved a lot of stuff into
This
this
is
room.
Hathaway?
I think this was the one she was using. And she moved into the house. This is in my father's room when he lived here when the house was here. And then it was used for offices for a while, and then became the museum. And this is the master bedroom, and right now it's storage.
What's the master bedroom?
Master bedroom was where the master of the house and his bride lived. Closet in there. There's a skylight. Comes from the roof. We got the light off. Just making sure.
That's okay.
Well, I forgot one on the other side and turned.
Like I
Somewhere.
said, I have calligraphers who are gonna make some signage, and so I thought, good, well, she's in that.
My sister brought in this stuff. I brought back what used to be there that my grandfather gave me for. There's a light out. Big ladder. You asked about 3 levels. This house has a basement. Has 4. If you want,
Huh?
you can ring any of these bells if you want. If your daddy wants to lift
Yeah.
you up.
Oh, these?
Good job. Pull hard. There you go. That was on the front of a train locomotive. You had to release the chain. Go around here. Oh, there you go. That's the clunker bell.